And now I would like to start our meeting. And Marina is going to be with us, but late. So she told me that George Chapman would be introducing our speaker, Naphtali. George?
Hi. Naf, do you want to run through the whole thing as Naphtali?
No, whatever you like.
I know that's your name.
It is.
We usually use we usually use Naf, but anyway.
That works. That works.
Anyway, Naf has been a valued friend, and for maybe what, 30 years, 25 years, something like that. Yeah. He is multi-talented at a very high level. You will be talking presumably about your current work and your book, but he is a very accomplished photographer. We have one of his framed photographs hanging on the wall, and he was a coder, if that was your precise term, for a company that my daughter Beth worked with. And at one time, they dated for a bit. They moved on, and yet here he is, still a friend. I'm so honored to be a good friend of my daughter's ex-boyfriend or whatever, but he's that, you know, the role has shifted, but he's a mensch under any auspices. And but between his skill in marketing and tech and photography and human kindness, I think I will let him elaborate.
Wow.
Welcome.
Thanks. I've given a lot of talks, but that was definitely the nicest intro ever. Thank you. So yeah, we've known each other for 25 years, and have, it's been so much fun to you know, be a part of your family in so many different ways, you know, with starting with Beth and now being very close with your grandkids and stuff.
Yeah.
It's been so nice to know your whole family. We even spent time in India together, George and I, visiting your daughter.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm really happy to be here. I've been giving a lot of talks over the past couple of weeks, and you know, the attendees are usually from all over the world, and isn't that amazing that we can do that on Zoom and all that? But it's really so nice to be talking to folks that I might have a decent chance of running into on the street, or we could even orchestrate a meeting. It's a shame that we're not speaking to each other in person, of course, but still just the fact that we have a possibility of meeting is really very encouraging. I live in Brookline, obviously, and I live in Alton Place, right by the mobile station on Harvard.
Oh.
And I've been here for, I think, 21, maybe 22 years. I lived in Boston for about 10 years before that. Grew up in New Hampshire. So yeah, I'm here with my wife and our 4-year-old daughter, and just having a great time. We absolutely love Brookline. We've been talking a lot about buying a house and stuff, and the conversations have come up of moving somewhere that's maybe not quite as expensive and so forth, but for better or worse, we are absolutely 100% committed to living in Coolidge Corner for the rest of our lives. So there you go. Yeah, so today I would just like to talk kind of very casually and openly, not as structured as the usual talks I give, and tell you my story, tell you kind of how I got here, and then open it up to questions. About how much time do I have?
About 30 minutes, let's
Oh,
say.
geez.
Yeah.
Okay, might as well give me a week. All right, good.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started, as George mentioned, as a programmer, and I was in 1993 or so. I was kind of really in the right place at the right time when the internet was just sort of starting to become a thing. 1995, I worked for a company it's called it's called Digitas, which I'm sure some of you have heard of in Boston. I was one of the earliest employees at their sort of digital version, and I worked on the very first version of Kraft Foods and a bunch of other kind of high profile websites. And there was a good resume builder, I guess, but and I worked at subsequent company, the one that George mentioned that I met his daughter at, doing very similar stuff. And these companies kind of had a reputation, in my experience, of doing interesting work, if you will, but not really treating people very well. So for example, I'd often work, literally, this is not an exaggeration, till midnight, some days till 3 a.m, and then come in at, let's say, 9:30, and they'd say you're late. And that was just sort of one example of what it was like to work in these type of environments for no good reason. We were not curing cancer or anything even close. We were building silly websites. And I don't know, I was 23, 24 at the time, and I just felt like there's got to be something more to work than this, just grinding to do nothing, basically. So I decided to start a company, and I wanted the whole purpose, the whole reason for being of this company to just be a fun, cool, I called it like a clubhouse that people would come and work at. That was the whole point. Of course, we would do software because that's what I knew how to do. That's what my buddies knew how to do. But the whole point was really to build a family-like clubhouse, fun atmosphere. So I grew it to 6 people. I was living in the South End at the time. And there were 6 people actually working in my apartment every day. We converted the living room to an office, and with desks and giant, those old school computers. We were all sharing a 56K modem, and it was paradise, and it was really good. And we then moved to an office down by South Station, and we grew it to 15 people, and we were doing great. And this dream that I had of creating this family-like atmosphere was really coming true. We had no rules, and by that I mean, really, it was very much like do what you want, just respect each other. But you can come when you want, you can go when you want. If you have to go to the doctor, you have to take a day off, like, who cares? Just do whatever. You're all grown-ups, do your thing, And so we did that, and we worked on some really cool projects, some sort of like big brand stuff, some local stuff, and everything between. And after 4 years of some pretty good success, one of our clients didn't pay us for about a year's worth of work that we'd completed already. They paid us. So that was a giant hit. I didn't even tell my team about it, though, because I figured we could recover from it. But unfortunately, at the same exact time, all of our other clients stopped giving us work. It was like right before 9/11, maybe 5 or 6 months before 9/11. The economy was starting to fail, and all of our other clients were just sort of like, we don't know what we're going to do. We're reevaluating, trying to cut costs, blah, 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 blah. So with a giant hole in our bank account and no income coming in, it was pretty much game over. So I sat my team down. It was 10 people at the time. They were all guys. And I said, I was in tears, and I was like, guys, we did it. We did what we came to accomplish, but game over, guys. And I said, it was a Wednesday, and I needed to come up with $40,000 by Friday just to make payroll. And I had nothing. I had $500 probably. And I said, just go home. There's nothing. Your health insurance is canceled. You're not going to get paid on Friday, which is probably illegal and immoral, but I don't know what to tell you, And they were not the most loquacious guys. So they were just kind of sitting there staring at me, and I said, come on, just somebody say something, And this one kid, his name was Jerry, he had a real reputation as being like a wise ass. And he said, I'll stay. And I said, dude, I can't tell if you're being nice or you're being a wise ass. So The next guy said, yeah, me too, I'll stay. And the next guy says, yeah, you'll come up with something, you always do. And all 10 of them said, yeah, we're not going anywhere, we're staying. And I said, that's really sweet and all, but I think you're all kind of just getting caught up in the adrenaline of the moment, you know? And I was like, but let's see, you know, you want to come here tomorrow? I'll leave the door open. You do what you want to do. Sure enough, 9 o'clock the next morning, they all showed up. And for 2 months, they showed up. And I don't really know what they worked on, but we hustled our asses off. And in those 2 months, we got our largest contract ever. And because of that, there had been this other similarly sized company eyeing us, wanting to buy us, but they didn't really want to buy us without, you know, a wing and a prayer. So once we got this other deal, we sold the company. And in the sale of the company, the only 2 things that I negotiated was that everybody had to come along as a group, as opposed to them cherry picking the employees they wanted to bring, and that everybody had to get a raise. And when I mentioned this to the buying company, they said, you know, people are getting laid off left and right now, even programmers at the time, 2001, they're like, you're out of your mind, you know? And I basically said, well, like, you know, you need me more than I need you, which was not entirely truthful, but that's what I kind of had to do to make those guys whole. And so we went over there, and that company, you know, it had its own issues. And after about a year, we all kind of got laid off and they went out of business. But you know, it really felt like we were able to stay together as a team and a family, and really kind of made lemonade out of lemons. So since then, or at that time, I should say, I just kind of realized, like, I don't know what I did, but I did something. And wouldn't it be cool if other companies knew what this something was? I don't even know how you'd call it, but if I could, you know, describe it, I'm sure other people would like to know. So over the course of many years, and I kept working at other companies in software and stuff, but on the side, I was always thinking about this, and I thought originally, maybe I should just tell people, do what we did. You know, we had like kind of no rules, open vacation policy, kind of very nice to each other, paid really well, had great benefits. We had, like, you know, beer and food on Fridays, tons of food all the time. You know, and all had like lists of like things that I had done or we had done together that I thought was what created this cool environment. But as I kind of studied and learned more, and, you know, a whole bunch of things, I kind of started to realize that that's not it. That's not it. It's what creates these great cultures is an understanding of humans, understanding of how humans operate. So we, you know, companies will spend tons of money, say on a piece of equipment. If you bought $1 million piece of equipment, you would know how it works. You would read the manual. You'd probably hire somebody to run it. You would know if it, you know, got cranky. You'd know where to put the oil and exactly what to do, and so on and so forth. But as businesses, we spend millions and millions and millions of dollars. Even my tiny little company had over $1 million payroll on staff, and we don't know how they work. We really don't know how they work. And so this is what I wrote this book about, Humans Working. It's, you know, how to create a better working environment for humans by understanding how humans operate. So turns out there's you know, some universal principles that describe how every human on the planet, regardless of where they live, race, color, creed, all that kind of stuff, what makes them tick. And so now when I work with executives, C-level executives and teams, and I try to show them that the reason that things don't work is not because we don't have enough processes or procedures, or we don't have the best product management or project management software or anything like that. It's because we don't understand each other. We don't understand how the other one's operating, and we think we do, and we operate based on those assumptions, and they're often incredibly wrong. Once people can start to see how people operate, and I'll get to the punchline in a minute, but once people can see how humans operate, all of these problems in companies start to melt away. And I've seen it happen over and over again. Things that look like real problems start to melt away. People start to solve difficult problems. that they were unable to solve for a long time without doing extra work. People see that a lot of the policies and procedures and forms and rules, softwares, et cetera, that they've implemented to try to fix problems, they don't need anymore. People over and over and over again tell me, you know, I thought we were talking about work here, and that's all great and all, but you know what I noticed after we worked together was my relationship with my spouse got better. My relationship with my kids got better. A lot of people tell me they stopped drinking or drastically reduce that or stop, you know, other addictive behavior. And so my dream for doing this work is, yeah, to help companies do better, make more money, make better products, make a better experience for people that work there, so people enjoy going to work and aren't stressed about work and that kind of stuff. But really, you know, the whole goal of all of this is peace. And I really feel like business is such a great avenue for creating peace because a few things. One, there's a lot of money in business, of course. And business people are willing to try things without a lot of research. I mean, if you say, hey, this might work for you, they'll say, yeah, we'll spend a couple bucks, we'll try it for a couple months. And if it doesn't work, great. But if it does work, we realize there could be huge benefit, as opposed to a lot of other types of organizations that really need, you know, medicine and so forth, which rightfully so, that need a lot more proof before they'll try something. You know, and also, you know, because business is such a huge thing, the environment, for example, you know, is really affected a lot by the contributions or anti-contributions of companies. Just, you know, the political environment, all of that stuff is hugely affected by business. So I really want to get this message out as far and wide as possible, so that things change, you know, so that all of these things that I think, you know, many of us want to see a better world, they can happen without us trying to fight so much against everything. You know, we don't need to fight racism and fight ageism and fight and fight and fight and fight. We need to come from a place, you know, that thing of you know, be the change you want to see in the world. We need to come from these places of love and understanding each other. And I sincerely believe that if we can do that, a lot of stuff is going to change. And, you know, just one more thing is that, you know, we all spend so much of our lives at work, right? I mean, of your non-sleeping hours, people are probably spending, you know, 70–80% of their waking hours at work, or you know, or certainly checking email and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we want to have a good experience of life and be perpetuating, if you will, you know, a better understanding. And just to, I still have some time here, right? Just to give a really excessively quick synopsis of this understanding I'm talking about. And this is not something that, you know, I invented or anything like that, but just something that I've come to understand is, you know, our experience of the world, every human being's experience of the world, is a product of the thinking that they are having in the moment. And when I say thinking, I mean, it's not something that you are doing, that any one of us is doing. Thought comes to us. Thought, as I describe it, is a spiritual energy that comes to us, that pops into our head, if you will. And that's what's happening. We're having an experience of that in the moment. We're having an experience of the stories we're telling. We're having an experience of the combination of all of our programming, our past programming from our childhood and every single thing, our religion, all that stuff, combined into this one big ball, and that all forms an experience in the moment. The really interesting thing, though, is that everybody's experience seems 100% real to them. And it's very difficult, even for the most enlightened of us, to see that somebody else's experience, as crazy as it might look to us in the moment, seems as real to them as our experience or reality seems to us, right? So the mind is really good at taking sensory input combined with all of your programming, your childhood, religion, all that stuff, and projecting this movie onto the wall, right? And then your mind is also really good at forcing you to watch that movie as if it's a documentary. So I make this joke, like if you watch a movie like, Fast and the Furious or any action movie or any comedy movie or whatever, and you watch that movie as if it was a documentary and you say, wow, I had no idea that you could drive a Ferrari out of one skyscraper into another skyscraper. That's really neat. I had no idea that that was really true. And then you live your life as if that's true. Life, you would end up dead pretty quickly. Life would get pretty challenging for you. But we're all doing that all the time. We're believing this picture that our mind paints, or picture or movie, not realizing that that's all it is. It's a picture that your mind is painting. The same, this is a little funny joke, like the same mind that convinces you to eat a bag of potato chips, right? It says you see this chip there and you're like, I kind of want those. And your mind goes, yeah, go eat them. You should eat them. You're like, nah, I'm on a diet. You're like, no, go eat them. You're like, no, it's not healthy. You're like, no, eat them. Trust me, you want to eat them. Like, nah, I can't do it. And your mind goes, oh, come on, you've been really good. You deserve it. And you're like, all right. So you go, you rip open the bag, you eat the whole bag of chips, right? Then your mind goes, man, you're an idiot. Why the hell did you do that? Right? The same mind that convinced you to eat it convinces you that you're an idiot, that you shouldn't have done it. And this was what happens all the time. So your mind is not a reliable source. But everybody, especially people that are, educated and smart and so forth, they think like I got a good mind. And so we trust it even more. And it just exacerbates the thing. So when I work with people, most of what I'm doing is what I call a subtractive process. There's not more to learn. There's like letting go. There's letting go of a lot of junk and cruft and crap that's just accumulated in the mind, and just sort of trusting life a little bit more. And I know that may sound trite or too easy, but in pretty short order, working with folks, a couple days, a couple weeks, they begin to see the sort of perfection of life as it's created, and stuff gets a lot easier for them. They start to just trust themselves more. They start to trust other people more. They start to be kinder, not because I told them be kinder, but because it seems to me that kindness is a natural human trait. The only reason that we're ever not kind is, again, because our mind gets crowded up with stuff and we think like, no, I gotta look out for myself and my family and so forth. And sometimes you gotta push people aside. And when that looks real, that's what you're gonna do. But if you could just see that like that, what looks real isn't real, naturally people tend to settle and become much kinder, much more pleasant, much more creative and inspirational, and all of those things that make business really good. We want to invent new products that are great and so forth. But those ideas come from a clear mind, right? We've all had that experience where we're taking a shower or something and we get a great idea. Why? Well, you've just woken up. There's not a lot on your mind. You have the hot water, whatever, and then that's where beautiful ideas come from. But so many of us think like, oh, I gotta come up with some good ideas right now. I got like 5 minutes, otherwise I'm gonna get fired. And it's pretty obvious that good ideas don't come from that place. Yeah, that's about all I wanted to share, and certainly happy to take questions or anything, comments or not.
Yep. Bo?
I was very moved by your talk today in so many different ways. You went right to my soul today. I think most Rotarians in their DNA have what you're trying to teach people, which is being kind, have a little bit of advantage, and we're in some respects a little further ahead, but we still need some of your advice to follow for certain. And good luck on your journey. And I hope to meet you face to face someday.
Likewise. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that, there's so many people doing training in the world and in corporations and stuff, but almost all of it is trying to affect behavior at the level of behavior, right? So you might go, a CEO may go to a training somewhere or seminar and he hears, teams that trust each other, they work, they produce better work. So he comes back to the office on Monday and he says, hey team, I want you guys to trust each other more. And of course it doesn't work that way, right? And that's just an example of trying to affect behavior at the level of behavior, right? I want you guys to trust each other more. I want you guys to be kinder to each other. But if it doesn't look real in the moment, if the movie you're watching looks like it's a threatening world out there, or looks like people are not trustworthy, or it looks like, yelling is really the only way to get things done in this world, well, then that's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to do. So I obviously have preferences that people be kinder and so forth, but I don't really suggest that people do that. I show them how their mind works, and inevitably they just wind down. I use this analogy of like a pond. A pond is still, and if you throw a giant boulder into the pond, or even a small rock, you get these ripples and the mud gets stirred up and so forth. But if you want that pond to be still again, you don't have to do anything. In fact, you precisely need to do nothing. You just let it sit, and pretty quickly it comes back to its homeostatic state, right? The more you try to smooth it out, whatever you might do with an iron or a magnet or a stick or something like that, if that were even a thing, you would mess it up even more. So as people settle, I really, no baby ever needed therapy, right? No baby ever needed to be like, and babies obviously have moods. They can be incredibly moody. But the really cool thing is, without intervention, they almost always come back to like a reasonably pleasant, happy, cheerful, creative kind of being. And we all have that capacity as well. It's just that as we build these sort of, record grooves of being angry or being yelly or being threatened or whatever, yeah, it's gonna take more to break out of that pattern. But even with folks that are, 50s, 60s, so forth, they're, a couple days to a couple weeks, people start to see something new, because it also feels really good. And people want to feel good.
Thank you very much for your talk today. Truly, I manage people. My business, I do a lot of employment. I have employees, and I work with them day to day. And I agree with you. There's a lot of ways that you can measure how committed, how they much they love their work. And I love your story about when you had only $500 and you have to come up with I've been to situations similar to that. But something, it comes down to one thing. I think respect. Respect people. Like I know in my practice, and no one ever heard me say they work for me. They work with me.
Yeah.
And I make sure my employee know that, and not by telling them that, by acting like that, by behaving in that fashion.
Yeah.
We used to have a Rotarian. Her name, she's still a Rotarian, but she's retired and she hardly attend now because of medical conditions. Linda Larson. Linda and I used to, I would say once a month, we used to meet over lunch just to talk about those issues. She used to manage the head of Brookline Adult Education. And she used to get frustrated with some people's behavior sometimes. And we used to sit down and talk about how we resolve our problems with them, how we conduct our behavior with them, how we do things.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. It's really interesting. It's something that there's so much to learn from and about.
Yeah. I have to tell you, on a personal note, you remind me so much of my grandfather. He
I hope that's good.
Well, he's Lebanese, and he
was
wow. Slightly lacking in the hair department as well, and he has the very same face as you. I mean, you look virtually identical to him. So he's not around anymore, but it's very warming to see you.
What's his name?
His name was Eli.
Eli what? That's my name.
Hanan.
Hanan. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah. I would like to offer to all of you, for for well, not for nothing, but just for being here. I'm going to put a link here in the chat. You can go there and download the PDF version of my book. There's also an audio book there read by me. And I would love it if you would go and read it. And my contact info and everything is on that page as well. If you'd like to, and I do not need to be persuaded to have coffee. So please feel free to reach out, and I would love to meet any of you.
Sharon, your hand is up.
Yes.
Oh, I
Sorry.
didn't see.
Hi.
Hi.
Naf. Thank you so much. Really, I always say the truth is the truth is the truth. And what you are saying is what I do in Buddhism or somebody else does in this or whatever. But I'm so glad that you figured out how to get it to businesses and to where we spend most of our work. I'm wondering, is this your total business now? And how do you exactly do this? Like, do you come in for a certain number of sessions, or how does it work?
Yeah. So I work with, like if I work with an executive, it's usually I do like an immersion. So before COVID, they'd come in here to Boston. Food is a huge part of my life too. So as part of the package, there was like, we go out to eat at, all these places, and that was included in the price. And we'd really kind of just spend a very easygoing couple of days talking about this and getting them to see it in a multitude of different ways through stories, my stories, their stories, walking along the water, eating some great food together. And then when I work with teams, it's 2 or 3 days usually. And the first couple of days is usually just getting them to slow down and see how all of these stories that they've painted are not true. And then usually in the third and or fourth day, we work on solving a problem, whether that's a culture kind of problem or a more businessy kind of problem. They're trying to make more revenue or whatever it is. And then with those teams, I'm often doing ongoing coaching with the whole team, one-on-one. It really varies, but it's there's not a lot of structure to it. Like when I teach, I don't really have a slide presentation. I draw a lot of pictures. I get people to share their experiences, get people to connect with their hearts. So I'll just give you a really quick example. The first exercise I do with anybody is I say, think of a time at which you were at peace. That could be you were on vacation, or you're watching a sunrise, or just anything when you were at peace. And now imagine, I go much slower than this, but now imagine what were the feelings that were present in you at the time. And people come up with the same 20 things all the time. It's like love, connection, freedom, God, creativity, oneness, lightheartedness, humor, so on and so forth. And I say, okay, great. So if those were the feelings that you were present to, did you do those feelings, or did they just show up? And everybody says, of course, they just showed up. So if they just showed up and you didn't do them, why don't we live in that space more often? And that's really what gets people thinking, like, oh, this is my natural state of being, but I'm adding stuff to it. So that's why I say it's a very subtractive process. There's not slides of here's 10 bullet points, take notes, memorize this. Nobody needs more junk in their head. So it's very subtractive and very, very just connecting to what feels good already. People with young kids talk about how when they're with their kids, even, the world could be on fire. And when they're with their kids, they feel very calm. We just talk about, well, what's that about? How does that work? How come sometimes you're not paying attention to the fire? And isn't that all that's happening? Is that when you're not paying attention to it, it doesn't really seem real? How come some days, you wake up on the right side of the bed and you come down to the kitchen and your kids, turn the kitchen upside down and there's pudding on the walls and whatever. And you say, whatever, they're kids, no big deal. And some days you might wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you come down to the kitchen and they drop a spoon and it's like the end of the world. So, just seeing that we're not experiencing what's going on, we're experiencing what's here. Even with the war that's going on right now, you see people on TV Some are saying we're very hopeful. We know we're going to succeed. Some people are obviously very terrorized and so forth. And all of those people probably switch roles multiple times a day. Sometimes they're hopeful, sometimes they're terrorized and so forth. So, yeah.
Well, we have time for one more question.
Oh,
Joyce,
Joyce,
do you want to say?
I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for this, and I hope you'll come back and join us many times.
Sure, anytime.
It'd be lovely
Anytime.
to have you with us in this group.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
That's right. And I would love to meet with you in person. Now we have something to talk about, share the
We can talk about Lebanese
yeah,
food.
Yeah, we can. And and also in my office, I make the Middle Eastern coffee, the Arabic coffee. So
Beautiful. I'll be there.
So okay. Well, we get to know you a little bit better.
I'm wondering if Joyce or anybody can put up the four-way test on the screen. It was referred to, Bo referred to it in responding to Naf that we as Rotarians are pre-programmed in a way toward this, as if he knew what the four-way test said. And so I'm just wondering, it's not a big deal, but or we could
I'm
always.
working on it.
Okay. The motto of Rotary, by the way, Naf, is service above self. So sort of that's our starting point.
All
It's
right.
coming of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? What a beautiful way to live by.
Yeah.
That's really what we are. That's all what we are. So
Beautiful.
thank you very much, George, for posting it. Thank you, George, for suggesting it. And thank you, Naf, for coming and talking to us about your lifetime experience and your book. And like I said, and now since we share a little bit more, you and I like to meet personally with you in my office if possible, and then maybe in the house for some Lebanese food. Yeah, my wife is a great cook, by the way.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just
very
want to say
much.
one more quick thing,
Yeah,
just like
go
a
ahead.
quick little aside. You mentioned this platform that you're using for the auction, Bidding for Good. It turns out that one of the guys that was working for me, he built most of that platform. So after he left my company, he went and worked for Bidding for Good. He was the head of the whole engineering team. So it's just funny how life comes around in full circle.
Comes
Yeah.
around,
Neat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
again, yeah,
I was
go ahead,
gonna-
Karen.
I was just going to ask, would you donate? I know your book's like $9.99 on Amazon. Would you donate a signed book that we could?
Yeah,
put
oh,
on
yeah,
the
that's
auction?
easy. Yeah, that's easy. I can do better
Very
than
good.
that. But yes, I can certainly
Yeah,
start there.
anything that would be great.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Naf.
All right. Thank you.
That's the
Yeah.
Lebanese. That's the Lebanese in you. They say
Yeah.
yes. Well, good to see you all. And
care.
next week.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great.
Well, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good week, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.